Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to BBallBreakdown. We are at the TPG Pro Scout School in Vegas, and I'm here with Fran Fraschilla of ESPN. And Fran, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about what Summer League means in terms of talent evaluation and how important it really is into the grand scheme of things.
Well, for an NBA team, it's important because you just drafted a guy 3 weeks ago, and you want to hope that what you saw in evaluating him over the course of his high school and college career is actually panning out. And so when a player doesn't play well early on or in the whole summer league, there's a tendency to kind of panic a little bit. But what we've seen through the years in a summer league is just a different animal than playing in an NBA season, especially for a young guy. I can think back to 2012, Josh Selby was a kid that was the MVP of the summer league, co-MVP, along with Damian Lillard. And he's out of the league. And it was a guy that played in the summer league that year that averaged about 5 points a game. He shot 28% from the field, and his name is Draymond Green, and he's gone on to have a pretty good career. So you don't want to overreact if you're an NBA team to what your young players are doing. It's an opportunity for them to get out on the court in an NBA uniform, ostensibly against other future NBA players, but you can't overreact. And I was telling you off the air, to me, and I love the summer league. I love being out here because it's the epicenter of the basketball world in the summer. But it's like the AA All-Star baseball game, a lot of prospects, some really good ones, some average prospects, and then some guys that probably not going to be ever heard from again. And will be playing over in places like Belgium and Estonia. So you don't want to overreact to how well a guy plays or how poorly he plays, but certainly you want him to play well.
Now, are there like nuggets you can take while you're watching the games? You might even miss the shot. You might even turn it over, but there's something there. Like, are there little glimpses that you can then see, like, that is something we can latch onto?
Yeah, absolutely, because a lot of times in summer league can be, because of the lack of practice time, glorified pickup basketball. You hate to say it, but the offensive concepts are very simple. And let me give you a good example, Nick. I always felt like, and talking to my NBA friends as well, one of the most important things about coaching a summer league NBA team out here is you better have a good, smart point guard. Even if he's not an NBA-level player, or maybe he's a guy that's a third point guard on your roster. I can think back to when, Jalen Brunson, not Jalen Brunson, but his dad, Rick Brunson, made a 10-year career out of being a great summer league point guard and then, willed himself onto NBA rosters because in the summer league, if you don't have a good point guard that can run your offense, how do you know how good Kevin Knox is or how good DeAndre Ayton is when you're running offense for your number one pick and you can't get him to basketball? So from that standpoint, having a good point guard is really important. But to specifically to your question, you're watching a guy's athleticism, his movement, his ability to decipher the game from an IQ standpoint. Obviously, if you drafted a shooter, you hope he's making shots. But you also realize that some of the things that are happening in the summer league are actually harder for a young player than it will be when he's on an NBA roster during the season with great players.
What do you make about players who played a year in the league already, and then they come in here and they look like all-stars? What does that mean?
I'm glad you said that because I'm going to talk about this when I cover some of the games for ESPN this week. I call them the schoolyard bullies. Okay. I'm thinking like Josh Hart comes to mind. There's a couple of guys that I wrote their names down. I'm trying to think of who else. John Collins. Yeah, John Collins and Josh Hart. They look like schoolyard bullies because both of these guys played significant minutes. By the way, just want you to know this. There were 31 NBA rookies that played 500 minutes or more in the regular season last year. That's the most in 40 years. But to your point, guys like Josh Hart and John Collins look like they already know what they're doing because, in fact, they do. And they played meaningful minutes as rookies, and you see them overwhelm some of these first-year summer league guys, and it's interesting to see. Cedi Osman, a kid that's already been in the league, and some others that Shaq Harrison has impressed me from the Phoenix Suns, who got a chance to play a lot last year. So, yeah, you see the difference between the guy who's just getting his feet wet and the guy that's already spent a year or two in the NBA.
Well, can I put you on the spot here?
Yeah.
Who are, give me two guys that are real rookies that are coming in from college or wherever who have impressed you and you think will do well?
Well, let me tell you a couple guys that no one expected to be as good as they've been, and that is DeAnthony Melton from USC, okay, and who was ineligible last year, who has had a great summer league. The knock on DeAnthony coming in was his outside shooting, but everybody who I know who evaluated him from an NBA standpoint loved his size and athleticism in the backcourt, his junkyard dog mentality. His offense was probably behind his defense, but his offense has been terrific here. And then another guy that I think people may look back and say, boy, we missed the boat on is Mitchell Robinson, the high school kid that the Knicks took in the second round, who is a freak athletically. I mean, the comparison to Anthony Davis is apt in the sense that very similar athleticism traits, the size and the speed of running the floor. So he's raw, long way to go, but for the Knicks to draft this young man in the second round, based on what I've seen in 2 games, is very impressive.
So, Coach, you're out here in Vegas every year in July, and you're really busy. We ESPN and Sirius and stuff like that. But I have a feeling that there's other things that you're here for that really are rewarding for you.
Well, it's Las Vegas in July is the epicenter, as my friend Mark Jones would say, the epicenter of the basketball world in the summer is right here. And one of the things I've been involved with for the last 5 years is TPG Pro Scout School. It's run by Pete Philo, who played for me at Manhattan College. And it's a great 2 days because there's a lot of young people who want to at least get a taste of what the basketball business is, the NBA, the G League, international hoops. And so I get a chance to MC every year, and we have NBA GMs, NBA coaches, head coaches, assistants, international coaches. We've had national team coaches from around the world. And our job is to educate these young people, many of them right out of college or still in college. It's not a job fair. It's not here. You're not going to get a job with the Clippers or the Warriors and Bob Myers just because you're here. But it's a great way for young people to get a taste of the basketball business. And as the MC every year, Nick, I get to ask the questions. So I get to stay curious about what really goes on in a front office or on a G League team. And so because of my involvement with Pete and TPG, it's a great way to spend 2 days. And the connections, we talk about learning and connecting. So the connections you meet. I'm in the twilight of a really fun basketball career. I'm in maybe the start of the fourth quarter, who knows? But these are young people that you can kind of share some wisdom with. So I love that.
And I also want to just add that the social aspect of it is really vital, and they have a lot of networking that way where you are one-on-one and have a chance to just pull a guy aside who's a coach or a scout or a GM and just talk to them and really connect. And I know we've heard some success stories, right, about people who were sitting in that stage getting hired.
Well, that happens. And again, I think we're clear that it's not a job fair, but basketball, like any business, is about relationships. And, a lot of these young people here connect with us. They connect with, whether it's an NBA GM or assistant GM. And so that's rewarding. But from a standpoint of guys like myself and Pete and the panelists, it's a way for us to pay. I always said this, if you can't pay back the people that helped you, then you learn to pay forward. And so this is a great opportunity for guys like me who love the game to pay forward and pass on some of our basketball knowledge, what limited it might be from my point of view.
Well, friend of the breakdown, Fran Fraschilla, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Coach?
I'm in all the way.
Sports fans, make sure to hit the subscribe button and adjust your settings so you can get notified immediately when we drop another great NBA video. Let us know how you feel with a thumbs up and a comment. After all, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?